Dr. Jazz.
But Richie, I just want to start by asking you about empathy, which is like an incredible undertaking. If I, it's a huge amount of music, and I've been listening to you guys since this baby came out. Like this is a long time ago,
okay. Yeah.
And it's nice to see you and Dave, playing in duo and solo and all these settings. And but I wanted to ask you, how did you decide to do this project? How did this one come together?
Well, we didn't decide to do it at the beginning. We started out making 5 separate CDs.
Oh, okay.
And then, in other words, we did, it started, I think, in 2016, with the Empathy duo, with Dave and I, all improvisation, every note improvised. That's the theme of this, and all the different CDs. And then the second CD, we was like, well, let's do something with Jack, without a bass player, all improvisation. So then we did that, and we had it. Then I said, I want to do a solo piano record, all improvisation. So we did it. We have this guy, Kurt Renker, our friend, our patron. He's a brother. He's great. He supports us. He records us. And then Dave said, well, I want to do a solo saxophone record. So we did it. And then I said, wouldn't it be great if we had a track to overdub some free shit on, like a really great, like for an hour? So we did that. And then the lockdown came. And we had these 5 CDs sitting there, and we really liked them. They were really fresh and different from, stuff. So I had this idea. I said, yeah, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but wouldn't it be great if we could find a record company among the dead record companies that would release a 5 CD box? They should all be released together because they're all the same theme, which is improvisation in different settings. 5 hours of music. Who's going to do that? We found somebody, Joachim Becker from Jazz Line, who had released 10 of our other CDs, duo stuff, my solo stuff, Quest. This is a great guy. He's a real supporter, old school patron, doesn't make very much money. And he said, yes, I like the music. I like it. We need it now.
Yeah.
To release this anytime would be an act of bravery. But to do it in a pandemic when motherfuckers are not buying anything except bread and milk,
Yes.
So he said, let's do it. And then, of course, he said, let's do it right. And we spent a lot of time with the liner notes. We got Ashley Kahn. Dave and I each wrote a whole bunch of stuff. And the layout, the design with Kurt, and the sound with Florian, the engineer.
Sound is amazing, yeah.
And it really is a statement, and it's not like we're not going to play tunes anymore, but we both have been playing tunes our whole lives. I'm 74, Dave's 75, and we've been playing our whole lives. We started 30 years before Chant. That was already
sure. I love that one. Yeah.
Started in the 60s. So I'm just saying, it's not so easy to have 1 hour of improvisation that holds up. I mean, anybody can play free, but so some of it's not going to be listenable. It's improvised, but it also has to be music.
Yeah, it's a story.
People don't care if it's improvised or it was written. They want to hear great music. Me too.
Yeah.
So we study, composition. We're both composers and we love great composers. And to do this kind of a free thing, more than 5 minutes, you need a deep sense of spontaneous composition so that it hangs together and it's not just pretty sounds nice mood, it becomes boring, it becomes deadly boring. There has to be an overarching sense of composition, at least in my opinion. And my great inspirations are contemporary classical music, Takemitsu, Ligeti, Morton Feldman, these guys, great composers, and the way they wrote music and capturing that essence of improvisation. The true thing, if you write a piece, like some of Bach's pieces or Chopin or Scriabin, they are so well written. It sounds like the motherfucker just wrote it and handed it to the piano player. Fresh, you know? And that's what we want. In other words, we're improvising together and we hope it sounds compositional. Like we spent years writing it, you know, working on it. But we don't want it to hear the effort, you know?
Yeah.
So we had a great time doing it because we're brothers. I know him 50 years, my oldest friend.
Sure.
We were boys together, you know what I'm saying? In the loft, looking up at the ceiling when we were high, doing everything together. And we had separate careers also, but basically, and we're still pals. And I look forward to playing with him. I want to play with him because, of course, he sounds good. A lot of people sound good. He surprises me.
Yeah.
And that's very important because jazz is the sound of surprise, you know. And if I'm not surprised, it's okay. I can see
it gets boring. Yeah.
It gets boring quick. And also it's not just a surprise, it's emotional. It has to grab my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an intellectual, but I'm also a street intellectual because I was born in Brooklyn. And, you know, in Brooklyn in the 50s, it's not a nice place. You had to survive. So you learn very quickly about people, about who you can trust and who you can't. And a friend is a different meaning of a friend. It means you're my friend. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And Lieb, you know, we've been through everything together in different bands and as a side band.
Yeah.
We've done 62 records together as a side band or collaborator.
That's incredible.
So we've been in it, and I still, you know, can't wait to play with it. You know, so that's and empathy is my name. I'm the namer. You know, I like the names because that's really what this whole thing is. That's what playing free is. It's empathy.
Yeah,
and it's like a conversation. Like we're having a conversation. I like you already. I can empathize with you. I don't know you from shit, right?
Yeah.
But and you're a guitar player, so I like you because I love Sco and Abercrombie and Ralph and McLaughlin and Wes and all those guys. It's a great instrument. So empathy can happen in 1 second, or sometimes it takes time to grow. But that's the main ingredient in this thing. And what's interesting is 5 hours of free stuff. Okay. Do we repeat ourselves? Happy to say, not so much. People repeat things, of course. Everybody has their licks.
It's their language,
sure. Yeah, but my solo piano thing called "The Heart of Darkness," I really like it. I really love it.
Yeah,
because I'm also following it as a listener while I'm playing. When I'm playing, I'm half there, and I'm half observing.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep it from being too self-serving. And keep it from being just me, like that. It has to be expressive, but it has to be music. It has to hold up under repeated listenings. How many times can you listen to Chopin preludes or the Goldberg variation? I mean, hundreds, thousands of times. So that's, of course, we'll never get that level because, let's face it, to be realistic, in an improvisation, you could never attain the levels that you get in a composition.
Composition, sure.
Like from a genius composer, you know what I'm saying? The other interesting thing about improvisation is that we know from historical facts and writings that the great composers, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, Chopin, were amazing improvisers, documented. And you can hear that in the pieces. There's a sense of, and Bartok too, by the way, there's a sense of effortlessness and just that flow that's in the best stuff that we do and Train does and Miles. And so I still want to play tunes, but the thrill is when you sit down and you don't know what you're going to play and the light goes on and you got the pressure of recording, and every time you put your finger down, it's history, you know, can be.
Yeah.
That pressure, man, that's great. That could bring out, you know, the pressure makes the diamond, right?
Yeah.
The millions of years of pressure on the rock of a piece of shitty coal makes diamond.
Yeah.
Or it washes it into 1,000 pieces, right? But for me, it's been improvisation like that has helped my writing of my tunes. It's helped my playing of tunes. It was a wonderful thing, and we're not finished yet. That was the first 5.
Oh, super.
Yeah. So
Did you?
And we hope that people will enjoy it and buy it and like that.
I mean, when you mentioned improvisation, like with you and Dave, I mean, of course, you know, first visit and Lookout Farm and, you know, the early stuff, there's a lot of improvisation there. But now when you did this one, did you guys, before started playing, talk about it?
No,
that's nothing. You just
always
started.
Improvisers. This is a particular kind, calling free improvisation, meaning completely unpredetermined.
Okay.
We didn't talk.
Even with Jack, you just started.
Especially with Jack. We just started playing.
Okay. Wow, amazing.
Now, the truth is, after maybe 20, 30 minutes of playing and having some good stuff, maybe Dave would say, hey, Cass, let's try something. Let me try starting with the flute, just me and Jack. Cool. But no notes, no paper, no sketches. Just like, or I would say, Lieb, let me start one. Or let me start in the strings of the piano. Or Jack says, hey, Rich, let's you and me start something. Or Jack says, let me start.
Yeah.
Or Lieb says, let's play something slow. I mean, something slow. It's not like you're playing, you know, Summertime.
Yeah, just one adjective. Yeah, I mean, that is. Yeah.
That was the limit of instructions, right? And it was always based on what we had done before, still keeping in mind to keep enough variety in the music.
Yeah, I mean, improvisation is spontaneous composition in a way, anyway. If you think about it.
Yes, it is. Well, once it's
you
recorded and you listen back to it 10 times, it's
a composition. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible because like all you know, you and Dave, I mean, it's kind of natural that it happens, you know, since you played so much. It's like so natural. And with Jack also, you know, all guys played together in different contexts.
I've been playing with Jack for 50 years. That was the first gig with Gets in 73. That was how I learned how to play with him and Dave Holland and Stan.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, but I wanted to ask you about the solo. You know, starting with Hubris, late 70s, and you know, you've done like more than 10, 15 records solo piano.
I have 23 solo piano records.
23. Oh man, Jesus!
Some of them are out of print. Some of them are out of print, and some of them were from Japan.
I'm behind then. Okay.
I made 23.
Oh man!
But yeah, from Hubris was 1977. That was ECM.
Yeah. What was your approach when doing that one, and now how has it changed in your ears and eyes? I mean,
well, it's the question. In 1977, I was 30, right? And we were already recording some stuff for ECM. Lieb's record, Lookout Farm, with me and Abercrombie and him. That was 72. And then we did Drum Ode with everybody on 73.
Yeah.
And then I did my first trio record with Jeff and Frank, Eon.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's 75. And then Manfred and I said, Rich, let's make a solo record. I said, oh shit. Okay. Because we got to remember, in the early 70s, that was solo piano.
Jarrett, yeah, and all these guys.
Facing You, Chick, piano improvisations 1 and 2. Paul Bley, Open to Love.
Oh yeah, shit, exactly.
These are iconic motherfucking records that are still sounding like amazing.
Yeah.
So I wanted that, and now I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm saying, okay, gotta be careful because sometimes you get what you want, right?
Yeah.
So was I ready? Was I ready to do it? Yes and no, because it's my first solo record. Also, Manfred Eicher, the producer for ECM, especially in the 70s and 80s, he was so on the case and so ahead of most other producers. He knew what he wanted. It was his label. He had definite ideas, but especially at that time, he wanted to bring out the best in you. He knew what I could do more than I did. And I was still young and immature. I was talented, not very experienced, and willing, and I wanted. So I went there to Ludwigsburg and Bauer Studios and by myself. And he's very tough, but very kind and smooth. He's just no bullshit. And when someone is no small talk, no garbage, it's intimidating. Plus, I knew in my head he'd already done Keith, Chick, and Bley. Keith, Chick, and Bley. The only other two would be, Bill, Herbie, and McCoy, but that was not possible then. So I'm in the line there, and I got to produce, and it was a pressure.
Yeah.
It was a great pressure. So, am I nervous? Yes. Am I excited? Yes. Am I scared? No, not scared. So here's the thing. I wrote 10 tunes. This was not about free improvisation. I wasn't ready for that. Bley was doing that. Right?
Yeah.
So I came in with these tunes, and the tunes in the 70s was kind of impressionistic, romantic, and chromatic, and me, very, very lyrical. I studied classical music.
Yeah.
I played all that shit, right? So, but I was an improviser. So, for example, first tune was Hubris, which is, if you know the meaning of the word, it's an interesting word. It means chutzpah. It means, temerity. Like, yeah. Like I can do this, and a little bit of an arrogance, a little bit of payback, But the tune was beautiful. I love the tune. Manfred loved the tune. The first take, I'm playing the piano. It's amazing. This is a 1928 9-foot rosewood Hamburg Steinway with the original parts.
Wow, man.
Just singing with the ECM sound, with the microphone placement and the reverb, just like the best of the best. All right. I do the first take. I think it's pretty good. I'm playing, the piano sounds great. I'm like, ugh. I come back into the booth. I figured he's going to like it. He looks at me. He goes, "What are you doing?" Like, I just killed his sister. "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What are all these arpeggios? What are all these scales? Just play the idea and let the piano ring. No decoration, it's fucking wallpaper." He didn't yell like that. He's not, but in his German way.
German, I can imagine.
Richie, just plays the music, that shit, right? And he was 100% right, because I'm a piano player, right? I can play the piano. I'm proud of it. And the problem with having chops is that you want to show it.
Yeah.
You want to show it. Especially, I'm not so known then. I'm 30, right?
30,
I'm getting started. Nobody knows me. You walk into a party and this is Richie Beirach. Oh yeah, and then Herbie says, "Well, what do you play?" That's okay. So here I am, and now I start to sweat and my stomach hurts. And he says, "What are you doing?" Like, not polite. He says, "What are you doing? Why are you playing all those?" And he was so right.
Yeah.
Nobody ever told me that before. Nobody. So he said, Rich, you sound really, really good. It's a great tune. Just play an idea, leave a space, a solo piano. There's no audience, there's no bass player, drummer. Let it ring. This piano will ring longer than an opera singer. I said, okay. I went in, second take. Wow, what a difference.
Yeah.
It's so funny to play because I wasn't playing the piano. He said, don't play the piano, play the music.
Yeah.
These are like bing, like light bulbs. Bing. I learned so much shit from him. I will always be thankful for him. I loved him as a producer, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can just imagine him.
With almost every tune. The first take was a disaster. Or let's just say, not a disaster, but not what it ended up being.
Yeah.
So we ended up with a really strong, beautiful, lean sounding record with a lot of space. He loved it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic record. I mean, you still put it on now. It's like, man.
It still sounds good, right?
Yeah,
Because I didn't do too much. Samo, if you would have heard, I did a concert the week before, a private concert, just to get going.
Solo.
With my friend. Yeah. A private concert of the same tunes. And there was a cassette of it.
Oh, man.
Cassette machines.
Oh, sure. That's how I transcribed music. Like.
Okay, so I made a cassette. I just put it on the piano of the same tunes. It's unlistenable. It's not corny like Roger Williams or Liberace or any of that shit.
Sure,
but it has. Why do I play those ascending arpeggios and scales? You know why? Because they feel good and they sound good. They don't have anything to do with the fucking music. Okay, so I learned that, and that stayed with me, and matured me. We did that for 2 days. The record came out. I was very, and it just was so much better than it would have been without him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah.
I didn't have that production experience. He knew. He already produced Keith, Chick, and Blay.
Yeah.
What did they need little Richie from Brooklyn for, right?
That's incredible. Yeah, this lineage. I mean, yeah, it's heavy. It's like just to get free of this. I did now a solo guitar record, and I took Eric Dolphy's music, all of his tunes, for solo acoustic guitar. And you have this.
Miss Anne? Did you do Miss Anne?
Everything. I did all of his 28 compositions. Yeah.
Oh, the whole, wow. Okay.
I transcribed everything that Lee Cheats arranged for
on
acoustic.
Guitar?
Acoustic, yeah.
You're crazy.
I'll send you a link.
Send it to me.
But I know what you're saying because.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Just hold on.
And I just wanted to say that, like, I completely understand this because, we have like on solo guitar, this immense heritage, going on for solo guitar. Yes. And how to get rid of this and the pressure when doing it. And then you just at a certain point, I was just like, well, fuck this, I don't need to harmonize everything like virtuoso Joe Pass did it, or let's play single lines even. And Liebman inspired me for this, if he can do a solo saxophone record,
amazing, right?
Single lines.
Yes.
I can play single lines as well, Why do I have to harmonize everything? And it's changed my perspective. It's like,
oh, I'm looking forward to hearing it. That's great.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, definitely. Okay. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you wrote 10 tunes and...
Zero what?
I remember you mentioned that you wrote 10 tunes for Hubris, right?
Yes.
And, you've been incredibly prolific as a composer. And, I was so heavily influenced by Abercrombie, who we played with. And I transcribed all those tunes like Elm and Riddles and Madagascar and Leaving. Cool. And, I probably done them wrong, the harmonies, because there are so many, slash chords and like.
Yeah.
But I tried, and it's just amazing how you develop melody in connection with really complex harmony. And when did you start composing? I mean, I know with Ian you already started, but like, what's your process? And when you're composing a tune, does it come with you like really like flops one take out, or does it take a longer process? I mean,
okay. First of all, I studied classical piano from 5 until 18. I heard jazz when I was 12, and then I lost interest in classical piano. I still played it, but I became interested in jazz. And then I studied composition and theory at Manhattan School of Music with Ludmila Ulela from 68 until 72, and I graduated. And I started composing in 1972. First tune I wrote was called Man-Child.
Oh, Man-Child for First Visit, right? The first song. Yeah.
And sure. I wrote that for Stan. That was
I love that.
Really? And that's on First Visit. That was my first tune.
Yeah.
And I've been writing since then. And my process has been, although not recently, but process has been sketchbooks. I keep sketchbooks, a really good notebook with a great pen on the piano. And I start mostly with intervallic cells, with little melodies. I don't force myself to write a whole tune, never.
Yeah.
And I put a date on it, and I have a sketchbook. Wow, I like it. I made my mind to only put things into the sketchbook that I really, really loved. And always in ink, never in pencil. Never write in pencil. It'll disappear in 10 years. Forget it. You want to change it? Scratch it out like Beethoven. Ink. I still have sketchbooks going back to.
Oh man, I have to see this once, man.
And I see them, and they're still clear in their ink, right? So anyway, I have some ideas, and also if something wants to come out, if I'm circling something over a period of days when I was writing music all the time, there will be an internal logic about these melodic ideas. Sometimes I get a chord, like a crazy voicing. I write the whole thing down, and I don't try to make sense out of it. I just let it come, or I improvise and I hear something. I'm not trying. I only write what seems important.
Yeah.
It seems pregnant, like, this could have a baby. This could develop. There's certain intervallic ideas, like, for example, one that I always use. My two doll.
Yeah.
This B flat A F sharp is second hand step the minor third. It's very dominant in contemporary music and Bartok and Persichetti and these great composers. Contemporary guys, Charles Ives. The interval of a half, because you know why? Because it obliterates tonality, and I want that ambiguity in the melodic idea in the cell. Because why? Because then I have thousands of possibilities
to harmonize it. Yeah.
Instead of it goes la la la,
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. Major. So I could put a D flat in the bass or a G flat. But I want ambiguity in the melodic idea, but I want it to be a strong, lyrical, beautiful idea. Beautiful, not schmaltz, but beautiful meaning some kind of sense of natural elegance.
Yeah.
So I have sketchbooks while I'm writing, and I have a date, sometimes just 3 notes, sometimes a phrase. And then Lieb calls and says, hey, we got a record date in 3 months. I need 3 tunes from you. All right. Cool. So straight ahead. I love Lieb. Lieb, how you doing, man? And the deadline inspires me. So now I go back to my sketchbook and I see ba ba ba. Oh, these are related. Oh, this could be the 3rd phrase. What chord? There's a great chord. Oh, that's not right for this. Then I go back a couple of months and I see things I haven't used. There are tons of things I haven't used in there yet that are so good. Someday I see, oh, wow. And I'm putting it together. And then comes the work. Because then you put it together and you think, now I have a tune. No, now it's going to sound stupid and intellectual and like a puzzle. So you have to smooth that out. That's the art in making it sound like it was one natural stream. Just like when you improvise completely, you have to make it sound like it was compositionally generated.
Yep.
And I really learned how to do it, right? Now, then there are the exceptions, what I call gifts. In German, they call it a gift, right?
Yeah,
Gift. Something happens, you have an experience, you fall in love, you're like rabidly in love. Somebody dies. You break your leg and you're in a hospital. Your parents, some horrible shit, death, or love, or just, amazing experience.
Strong emotion, yeah.
And you get a gift, the tune, like Leaving. Leaving was a gift. It was a terrible, sad gift. Okay, I broke up with a girl. I was in love with a 21-year-old German lady. Right on, on the way to the Hubris gig, right? She was going to come to New York and be my love, blah. She's 21, speaks no English. Completely crazy. But, young love, right? So finally she said, I can't do it because her father is like there with 3 brothers. No fucking way, not with my daughter. And she said, I have no way of supporting myself. I can't speak, So what am I going to do? So we'll live on love, Stupid. So she said goodbye. I'm in a train from Aachen to Ludwigsburg going to the record date, the Hubris record. And I'm crying like a little bitch, right? Like I'm trying not to show it, and like the people in the thing are like moving away. And I get this phrase.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming out. I don't have a pencil. I don't have nothing. I go to the conductor, this old guy, very sweet guy, who's looking at me like I'm an asshole. I said, Haben Sie ein Stift? And he smiled at my bad German. And of course, he had a great pencil with an eraser. I had some music paper, and I'm sitting in the train in 3rd class. I have a desk though, which is cool, right? I'm writing down G, F sharp, A, G, B flat. I'm rolling. It's coming out.
Yeah.
I'm getting shit. You know what I'm saying? It's a Mozart moment. Not that I'm Mozart, but the way the shit
I know
came
exactly know what you mean. Yeah.
So I'm like crying and I'm laughing and I'm saying, good. So I get the whole melody and I even can feel the tune. And then I said, don't start with dee da dee. Dee da da dee doo dee. And then the time comes in, the 8th note feel.
That's amazing when this happens, yeah.
Right. I got the tune with the harmony. I can feel it, I can hear it. And I'm going to play it. I'm going to record it. That was the first recording of it. So that was my life then. Very dramatic. Big time. Shakespeare, that shit. I loved it. I love it.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So that's a gift. The other gift was Elm from Zbigniew Seifert, my dear friend, the greatest jazz violinist. I mean, his shit just.
I mean, influenced everyone. Yeah.
Record called Passion with Jack and Sco and Gomez.
I love that one, man.
Philharmonic Strings, the heaviest record I ever been on, right? And he died like 2 months after. So I wrote that for him. It came out even simpler. So that's what I mean about gifts. These are gifts, Sometimes I'd rather have them alive than write the tune, right?
Yeah.
Mraz just died, like in the summer, and he was my brother, like 50 years, recordings, tours, everything. And he just died. Okay. So I didn't want to go near the piano for a while. And then one day I heard a melody. I sat down and wrote the thing out. So that's different. I have about 10 of those songs, luckily. I have 400 songs, and not all of them are great. some of them are great. I love them. I love them as like as though it was someone else's. And sometimes the best ones are the gifts.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, I must say, I'm happy to work on the song because, in a way, it's more fun. Because when you get the gift, you write it down. That's it. I like the process. I love the process of working on it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little story about Elm. I wrote it, the first 16 bars, da 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 dee, da, dee. It came out, boom, boom. And then I showed it to Dave, and he said, "It's beautiful, but you're not done with it, and you know it." Lieb, right, the lawyer, right? And you know it. In other words, you lazy fuck, don't just be a lazy. It needs something at the end. I said, "What?" He said, "I don't know. You're the piano player. Come on." He was so right. I couldn't see it because I'm in it, What did Nietzsche, one of those German guys, said, or Wagner said, if you want to move a heavy object, don't stand on it, right? Get off, right? Get a little perspective. So he was right. And I said, it needs a coda. Because not enough, not for Spiggy, not for him. So I said, what now comes to work? Because the other thing was inspired and it was not worked over and came out natural, a gift. But now I'm working on it. So now I'm working like a fucking shoemaker, and I've got tons of music paper on the floor because it's crap. Because it sounds intellectual and it sounds like synthetic, especially compared to the inspired shit. I fucked myself because I set up a higher standard, So I'm working on it now for 3 weeks. He calls, he says, "How's it going?" I said, "I'm having trouble." He said, "I know you are. Keep doing it. It's a great tune. Real friend." Boom. I found it. I realized in a flash, after 3 pots of coffee, it needed a coda where Spiggy was dead, but in key of major. In the Mahler symphonies, you have the fifth or the symphony is F major. This is the saddest thing, the Adagietto. Or the Ninth Symphony, the D major. Because if you're having a minor key, this is an exaggeration, but if you're in a minor key, it could be sad and deadly and like this. But there's always a hope that it could go to major. But if you're in the major, you can't go any, that's it. So for me, the saddest, most beautiful slow movements of classical music and contemporary music are the tunes that are in major. So now I have a coda that is really written, which is a kind of version of the melody in the major key. Da, 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 dee, da, da, da. Simple, like a child, like Schumann. I love Schumann.
Yeah.
And it sounded great, and it had just enough drama at the end and a real symphonic ending, hopefully not too corny. And I played it for Lieb, and he went, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." And we played it, recorded it, and that was the record, the Elm Trio with Georg and Jack. That was ECM. That came right. Manfred loved that too, and me too.
Yeah.
So that was half of a gift and half of a factory work. You know what I'm saying? And it was worth it. I like both. I like both things. Now, in the last couple of years, I must admit, I haven't been inspired to write new things because I'm into improvisation. And I've been thinking, I want to save all my creative energy for the moment of recording. Composition it's part of improvisation. but it's not the same thing. The thing about jazz is that
Interesting. Yeah.
when you're playing all the other arts, you can stop and slow it down. If you're a poet or a painter, you can like work with your fucking bathrobe all day. You're writing a novel. You write in the morning. You have a coffee. You go take a nap. You go see your girlfriend. You walk the dog. You come back in. You write another paragraph. You could do that for 10 years. Or a painter. You're working on a painting in work clothes. You don't have to see anybody except your art dealer. You can have food delivered, right?
Yeah.
Solitary situation. But jazz is improvisational music, group music mostly, played with people in front of people.
Yeah.
Not just online music. No, sorry. It needs to be people in the same room. Now, the online shit is great for this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, sure. But I know what you mean.
Right? So I'm thinking I want to keep that feeling of improvisation, composition, because they're both parts of each other. And you know, the best composers, like I was saying before, sounds like they wrote it and handed it to the guy and played it, even if it's 400 years old.
Yeah.
That's what I want in my music. So now I'm not writing, except, when someone dies, which I can't stand it. But I'm saving it for the improvisation because we're on a track now with this 5 CD thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Heard he wants to do more. He says, come back, So we have plans. And then, of course, recording studios, I love. They're safe and they're challenging. You can always do a take 2. The problem with jazz is you can't stop and say, just a minute, I want to fix this. Jack, wait,
Exactly.
no. You can't stop. There's no take 2 in the live recording. With all the other arts, pretty much, you could stop and think about it. So therefore, recording live a jazz record is really the most challenging because there's very little editing.
Yeah.
There's no fix. It's the truest thing. It's the most honest thing. I once had a friend, I don't know if you know this guy, David Baker, engineer.
Yeah, sure.
Great engineer. We did about 100 records together.
wow.
Just a genius. Very old school guy. He had some interesting views, contrary to his own life. We have a couple of beers. He was from Atlanta, and he would say, Rich, real jazz should never be recorded. It should only be listened to live. And then never again. At a point. I said, but Baker, you're an engineer. Your whole life is based on it. He says, I know. I'm just telling you how I feel. The pure jazz is one-time performance. No recordings. That's too extreme, of course, because look what would happen in the 20s. That would mean that only the 20 or 50 or 100 people in the room get to hear it. No, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a great interchange with Paul Bley. Paul Bley was kind of my mentor.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
In a way, but in a very strange way. He was kind of a pirate, interesting character, not a normal guy, brilliant, genius, very contrary, totally original.
Yeah.
Let's face it, half of Keith Jarrett and half of Chick is Paul Bley.
Yeah.
We know.
Sure.
They don't talk. Right? So, me too, by the way. Me too. So I'm getting ready to go to record for Manfred, right? The Hubris record, 1976, 77. Bley, I meet him in the thing, and he's like, so I invite him to my apartment on Spring Street. I said, come on over, you want to hang out? He says, okay. He's like 10 years older, but the very, very important 10 years. It's like 100 years, right? So he comes to my house, and we're talking, and he's looking around. He's very nice. He's from Canada. He's got good manners, right? He says, oh, you're going to record a solo piano? He says, what are you going to do? I said, yeah, I got 10 tunes. So he looks at me disdainfully. Oh, so you know what you're going to play. Wow. Boom. In other words, you know what you're going to play. You're not an improviser. You're just going to, and implying, of course, he goes and he improvises. Of course, he sometimes plays these little tunes from Annette Peacock.
Yeah.
But he's an improviser. And he does not believe in take two. There's only one take. I mean, he plays it and then doesn't listen and then walks out of the studio and then put the record together. This is some pure form of jazz. It's not me. It satisfies him. It works for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Genius. I never understood how he could get away with solo piano recordings with such a limited fucking left hand. His left hand is nothing. I'm sorry. It's like, B and C.
I know what you mean. Yeah, no, but yeah, so it worked. Yeah.
I've never had those chops in his left hand. His right hand is unbelievable. Fluent. Maybe he had it and he didn't use it. I could be wrong. I don't think so.
Yeah.
The whole thing was in the middle of the piano with the chord and the upper register, the most amazing lines and ideas.
Yeah.
And that usually works, with a trio, with a bass player, okay? But he did it solo piano.
Yeah.
How do it? Well, with Manfred especially, the piano was ringing, and he was the one that taught Manfred, play the chord, wait, play an idea, wait, let it ring. The piano is a big resonance. It's a big amplifier. He started that. But the power of his right hand lines and the colors of those chords made up for any lack of left hand fluency. But it's astounding.
Yeah. He was such a player. I mean, so underrated also in the jazz piano opus, I think.
He challenged me.
Yeah.
In other words, so you know what you're going to play. This is the worst thing you can say to a jazz player. The whole thing is, we don't know. We're not supposed to know what we play,
That was a good one.
I love Paul Blake. And
Incredible.
Carla, the shit that she wrote for him, those tunes, and that whole circle, just those short little vignettes are so
simple, but so powerful. Yeah.
Simple and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Richie, can I ask you also, you sent me one thing, you sent me that video with John Abercrombie and his quartet. Oh, yeah. And, Abercrombie was a risk for me. I mean, he's my guitar hero, and I wanted to ask you, how was, I mean, I know you started playing with John with Liebman already in the, early 70s, and but how did you end up with that quartet? Because it seemed like a collaborative form. Everyone wrote music and it seemed so fluid when I listened to it. Like, how was that story? I
didn't meet John until 1972 with the Lookout Farm record. I met him at the record day, right? And we became friends. And he was already playing with George for years, since the 60s. And Peter, they knew each other in Boston. Peter Donald, right?
Yeah.
They had a piano. They used to play without piano. And John was playing with John Hammer and Jack, of course, a Timeless record. That was the beginning. And he didn't play with piano players very much at that time because he was wanting to be the cheese, It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Then we started to meet, and we lived near each other in Manhattan. Everybody did, and we would go to clubs together, and we recorded together. And finally, we played together with George and Peter, and it was magic. It felt great. It felt like and we had compositions. We each were writing. George wrote a little bit.
Yeah.
We each wrote some of our best music for that band, and we had 3 CDs that finally Manfred released as a
box. I saw that. Yeah.
And we built up a repertoire of original compositions from him and me, and also the way we played standards. We would play Stella or Beautiful Love, and or Alone Together, and and played like we played our original compositions. We deconstructed, we took it apart, reharmed, spontaneous, change of tempos, really creative, like Miles did in the 60s, like nothing new, but for us.
Sure.
And again, we had Manfred. Manfred didn't like standards. We didn't want them. So we eliminated them from the recordings, but we played them on gigs, of course.
Live, yeah.
And those days in the 70s, everybody was working. And I don't just mean 2 nights, 6 nights here, go to another city. We did an American tour in a van. Then we go to Europe 4 times a year, go to Japan twice, South America, Canada, all over. There was a scene. People were going out, not just on the fucking weekends. You have clubs filled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know? That's gone. Not just for the COVID, but, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Not so much interest. But anyway, so we had constant tours and constant recordings with ECM. Manfred loved John. John had a whole bunch of other stuff to do. He had solo guitar records. He had a duo with Ralph. The duo.
I love that one. Yeah, that's incredible.
And John had stuff with Kenny Wheeler. You know, John was the real ECM guy. He was real ECM. And God, we went to Prague. We went with George back to Prague, you know, when he first went. But the quartet had a great dynamic. George, probably one of the 3 greatest bass players of all time, right? The most amazing intonation.
Yeah, incredible. It was
clear, sweet, expressive solos, amazing swing, and deep sound.
Yep.
And a good composer. A little bit conservative, but a good composer. Peter Donnell, a wonderful drummer, very underrated. Big band experience, played with different big bands, but also with Toshiko.
Yeah.
And could read everything, played with singers, but was a great jazz player and had this light touch, but a deep sound. Light touch, deep sound.
Yeah.
And it was totally into interaction. Plus, he and George and me, we put the beat in the same place.
Yeah.
That's always very interesting, because sometimes you have great players, but they can't play together in the same part of the beat, right? We had total agreement. And we were on the road together for years, like, you know, hotels, lobbies, and breakfast, and just, you know, drinking, smoking, like the whole thing. And we were, you know, we were like young guys in our 30s and 40s, and we were like, we were really in it. And in those days, you were playing so often, your chops got like iron, and you're always warmed up. You were always coming from a tour or always doing, so you were already warmed up. It was
incredible,
now more than 3 months, what the fuck, right? But I had also with John was very creative guitar player and expanded the vocabulary of the instrument harmonically enormously. Because I would sit with a normal guitar player and he would say, I'm sorry, we can't play that. John would find a way to play these notes. I mean, you're a guitar player.
Yeah, he was so fluent, man.
You can't play more than 1 minor second in a chord. Is that right? Bullshit. Abercrombie had a way of doing it.
Yeah.
He would play a second here, and then he would touch it here, or with his nose. He showed me some special things. It was possible. Not to do the exact piano voicing, but to do much more of it than you would think, right?
Yeah.
So we understood the sharp 5 chords and the triple poly chords and the slash. He understood how to blow on them.
Yeah.
They're not. The main thing about, I'll just tell you right now, you probably know this, all these poly chords, you know, F major over F sharp or C diminished over B diminished. When you're improvising, you never play in the bottom chord. You never. You only play in the top chord. Because if you play in the bottom chord, it's going to sound like shit.
Yeah.
Because that's the bottom dissonance. So if you're playing C major over C sharp major, you've got D flat, C sharp, F, D sharp, C, E, G.
Yep.
You don't play D flat, F, or A flat. you play in the top partial of it.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, he knew that, and just his time, his lines, and also he was very sensitive to sound. He went nuts with the pedals. And when came out, he used it in such a great way. Such a great. Some of those sounds are so cheesy. You know that, right?
Yeah, like when it came out, yeah. But it's amazing how he did it. It's amazing.
He didn't do a record. Do you know do a record?
Emerald City, yeah, sure. I love that one. The guitar synths work on that one. Woo! Yeah.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful stuff, yeah.
And he that tune, by the way, you could help me with something. You're a detective. I can't find the rest of that concert, the Portugal 1980 Cascai.
Yeah.
There's one tune. I can't find it. It was an hour and a half.
Okay, I'll try. I'll try.
Was in the giant.
Yeah.
You have it. You have it.
Yeah. I'll try searching it.
It's great. There's another Abercrombie, 2 other concerts. One is on Tebe, which is 35 minutes with the riddles and Night Lake and stuff. And then there's Monterey in California, which is great. There's no video of that. I have audio. I can send that to you if you want.
Oh, please. Wow, I'll be so happy. Oof.
But we had a great band and a lot of fun and some serious deep shit. John wrote beautiful. I mean, the tune "Foolish Door," that tune,
yeah,
genius tune, so lyrical and simple chords. Whoa. And a beautiful ballad called "Paramore."
Paramore, yeah, man, that's like the 3rd song on Arcade. Yeah, I love that one, man.
Even Arcade. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Oh, Arcade. Yeah.
He had this ability to write a bass line and a simple melody, and then space, and then a great chord progression to play on. He was a great composer, short form composer, like
Yeah.
He liked my stuff. The Madagascar, man, that was
that's killing. Yeah,
that tune came for me, was also a gift. We would stand with Jack and coming from Manila or some crazy place, stop over in Madagascar just for 3 hours to get refueled. And this is Madagascar in the 70s. Got off the plane. You know, they didn't have any of those awnings, just and the air.
I can only imagine. Yeah,
you in the face, the smell of that was the first time. It was sweet and sour and the little fish and strange, just like perfume, and then some weird shit, you know, like swamp shit, like.
Sure.
But it just hits you, and it you can't get away from it. And the people were so nice. Madagascar. There are animals that are there.
Yeah, sure.
Plants
Yeah.
are there nowhere else in the world. And it broke off like 10 million years ago. But it's got its own. So I wrote a tune from that. Was a gift too. That was like, boom.
Came like that, yeah.
It was dark. At night, there were no lights in the street. It was jungle. There were cities carved out. And people having a good time, and a lot of crazy shit going on, a lot of guns and drugs and strange women and just guys with machetes, you know. It was like, but we were only at the airport for 3 hours. And they said, don't go anywhere. Just
sure.
So that was, you know, from a guy from Brooklyn. It was a heavy experience, right?
Oh, beautiful.
But with Abercrombie, so the thing about Abercrombie, he was such a good, decent, sweet, intelligent motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Kind, he was modest, right down to his bones.
Yep.
He didn't think he was a motherfucker because he was always talking about Wes and Jim Hall, Wes and Jim, and McLaughlin.
Really?
Now,
McLaughlin.
Star, big, you know, the Mahavishnu shit.
Yeah, sure.
With white sheets and everything. And McLaughlin had blinding chops. There's no question about it, right?
Yeah, but like, you know what's the best record of McLaughlin? The first one.
Extrapolation.
Yeah, with Sermon, and that's the best McLaughlin record.
And Stu Martin, it's a motherfucker.
Yeah, incredible.
Before he got that, what fucked him up was the religious crap, the street chin moy stuff.
Yeah,
And he got it, then he got out of it, of course. But when he was doing the Mahavishnu, he had his short hair with the white sheets, you know, he was doing
yeah.
the band. Then he got busted, street chin boy. They found him with like 13-year-old girls, right? Anyway, I love Johnny, a great, great musician. And I still listen a lot to My Goals Beyond with Lieb and the solo piano, solo guitar, acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
My pork pie hat in blue and green.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, good pie, pork pie, it's amazing. Amazing.
Amazing. I heard the tapes from Lieb because he was on 19th Street. We heard it, it's just incredible. But McLaughlin's best, in my opinion, was with Willie Williams' lifetime, of course, with Larry Young.
Yeah.
That
was a killing band, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Big Nick. I heard them live in 1969 at Slugs summer with Larry Young and Tony and McLaughlin. It was the loudest thing I ever heard. The door was open. It was August. And I heard them from 3 blocks away, coming Lower East Side to Slugs. You could hear it. It was phenomenal. I never heard anything so loud. And Slugs was a small little shitty place with terrible acoustics and a tiny bandstand. It didn't matter. It was packed and people were out on the street. This was joy, 1969.
Right, yeah, incredible, man.
And Tony was the softest one in the band because he was the only one that was not, Mike. But it was like, Tony, man. That's the shit he wanted to play. That's why I left Miles. He wanted to rock and roll, volume and power, but with the jazz. With that amazing. And McLaughlin, Larry Young, rest in peace. Larry
also, yeah. Yeah, man, yeah. I mean,
poet. John was a real poet, and he got better and better as he got older.
Yeah.
And very kind and stayed modest. He got sick and he had a terrible, terrible illness. He went out very hard. He was in the hospital for a long time. It was terrible.
Yeah,
we used to call troubles. Abercrombie.
Yeah, but he left us with his amazing music, which
That's right. And ECM. ECM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Another record. Do you know the Maracaibo Cornpone record that he's on?
Which one?
Maracaibo Cornpone.
No.
The record's called George Otska, drummer. It's me, Miroslav, Abercrombie, and Grossman.
Really? I have to check this out. Oh, shit, I don't know this one.
Send it to you. Wait, let me write this down.
Oh, please.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.